Cool, guys. So it's Instant Nizaki, and like I said in one of my shorts, I am a huge fan of Hunter x Hunter, and I just could not help myself. I have to do this video for myself and for my fellow Hunter x Hunter fans. So in today's video, I'm going to tell you guys what my Hatsu would be for each of the 6 Nin affinities. So let's get started. Starting off with enhancement. Now, I'm going to tell you guys what the restrictions are for these as well. Um, but in all, let's just create them. With enhancement, I would call it Supreme Rejuvenation. And what this Hatsu does, basically, it can heal and strengthen a individual's body and or objects if I put my hands on them and say upgrade. And as long as I am touching something while I say the word upgrade, it can either be restored, strengthened, and or advanced. Now, if I am touching something or something is touching me and I say downgrade, it begins to weaken and degrade and or become less sturdy. So that could mean, like, say if I were fighting Meruem and it were basically a game of who could tag who first and without getting tired. If I tagged Meruem and said downgrade, he would become weaker and slower, and his body would not be as strong. That means also the amount of nin and energy that his aura that he accumulates, pretty much dissipates as well. The weaker his body gets, the weaker his nin gets. But the restriction for this is, in order for me to use upgrade or downgrade, I have to be in a motivated situation, I guess. I would, because it would, I mean, you can use it freely on inanimate objects, but when it comes to organisms, if you want to put a restriction on it, I can downgrade people who are trying to cause me harm or have ill intentions. And I can upgrade people who have good intentions and are, friendly. So that's kind of what I would do with the enhancement Hatsu and its restriction. Okay, now second, we have transmutation. This one, it took a lot for me to think about because transmutation is kind of hard, especially when you're looking at characters like Hisoka and Bungee Gum. And you have to think about the properties of what you want to transmute. And if I transmuted my aura into something that wasn't, say, heat energy or something that could burn, I would turn my aura into the properties of water, strictly H2O, and also having the properties of oxygen. So that way I can not only use my aura to wash away enemies and pretty much overload and or waterlog their bodies. That's actually the purpose of the water part of the transmutation. It's because we are made up of 60% water. I would be able to waterlog my opponents and drown them from within their own bodies without even having to really do too much. And when it comes to the oxygen part about it, I can use oxygen to suffocate my enemies from within, or when they are within a certain radius of me while I am in combat, or just around me in general, I can take the air from their bodies and suffocate them and decompress their bodies with the water. And that is definitely a pretty cool nin Hatsu uh, when you think about it. But the restrictions for it require me to, hmm, I don't know. I guess you would need to be in an area that does have some form of moisture in the air. If it's dry and humid, then you can only use the oxygen part of the hot suit and not the water. But if you are around water, then you can pretty much use both parts of the hot suit. Now, I think that would make sense because if you're in a desert, you wouldn't be able to drain the person. Well, no, if it's trans, oh, I'm sorry, my voice just cracked. uh, but I don't know if it's transmutation and your nin property is water. I guess you could dehydrate somebody without there being water in the air. I don't know. I have to think about that restriction, but I really like that hot suit, and I guess the name of it would be. Hmm. I don't know. No copyright. But liquid swords would be cool if I could use that as the name. As a matter of fact, yeah, liquid swords would be the name of the Hatsu, and for the oxygen part, it would be uh embolism. Air. I don't know. Air embolism. Aneurysm, embolism. I have to figure this part out, guys. You guys leave a comment in the yeah, leave a comment of what you guys think the name of the transmutation Hatsu should be named, and we'll go from there, guys. So next we have conjuration. And conjuration is a pretty difficult one on my part because there are so many different things that you could come up with. I thought about conjuring a giant kaiju, maybe a mech suit that would integrate with my nervous system and enhance my body while I'm using it. Uh, but what came to mind uh, is a hot suit that I'm going to call Four Horsemen or the Four Horsemen. And basically, how this Hatsu works is I conjure the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And in order for them to be used, I have two pair of dice in my hand. And when I roll these dice, whatever the number hits is the type of plagues and attacks that these horsemen do. And also, the dice give me weapons to defend myself while the horsemen are also attacking. So it's pretty much a three-pronged attack where the horsemen can attack, I can attack, and my dice give me a counter weapon to defend and attack with. But in order for me to use this, the restriction takes a large toll on the body. So, in order for me to conjure, I have to make sure I have a full stomach and I have to eat before I can use the Hatsu at its fullest potential. Because if I am slightly hungry, then I can only use at least one to two of the horsemen. But when I am full, then I can use all four to the fullest effect of the Hatsu's ability. So, conjuration is going to be the four horsemen. Okay, guys. So next up we have emission. Emission. So basically, with this one, I was thinking about it's like, oh, it would be cool to shoot like super high powered laser beams that could disintegrate stuff. But it would be so simple like a Dragon Ball Z attack. So I said, no, let me figure out a more creative way to do this. And what I came up with is called Cosmic Overseer. And how this Hatsu works, I admit miniature stars. I can pretty much emit miniature stars and attack my enemies, or miniature black holes that can destroy my enemies. But the thing about it is, in order for me to use these two Hatsus, well, the Hatsu, I'm sorry, not two Hatsu, but to use this Hatsu, I either have to be uh basically, to use the star energy, you have to be out in the sunlight. In order to use the supernova energy, it has to be in the moonlight. And that way you don't become so reckless with the power and don't over use a certain amount of energy when you're emitting the supernovas or the star, the miniature stars. And because stars are extremely powerful, and that is what powers and gives life to our galaxy on this planet as well, is definitely a great emission power. So maybe it would take a little transmutation. It makes sense to admit that type of energy. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Okay, so now we're at manipulation. And for this, I there's so many ways that you could create a Hatsu for this, because there's coercion and all of that, different ways to manipulate. But I came up with something that's a little bit more about how you can alter the shapes of things and also control them without being in the area at the same time, just like Illumi with needle people. But with this, if I pour my aura into an area that is, I would say, give me a radius of 150 meters, say just roughly 150 meters from the first time you use the Hatsu without actually developing it. Um, you can pour your energy into the area, and anything that's in the area, whether it's a living object or not, can be altered with your aura. And as long as your aura is in there, it is basically the controller of that individual. Kind of like Baby on Dragon Ball GT when he poured his cells into different people and across the world and took over the Saiyans. It's like if you sneeze in the air, the people around you can still get sick. So it's like a sneeze, if you will, but not necessarily. But in order for the Hatsu to work, like I said, the individuals have to be within a 150-meter radius first. Once they're infected, it starts a chain bubble, like a Venn diagram, if you will. And each bubble spreads. And as long as those bubbles are connected to the main bubble, they can spread their own control. And it's just basically creating a mass zombie apocalypse based off of just pouring my own aura into people. And not only that, I can transform them into beasts and creatures of my own choosing and desire based off of how my aura is poured into them. So I would like to call this Hatsu, coercive evolution. I like that, coercive evolution. So yeah, that is what I would do for manipulation. So let me know what you guys think about that one. Finally, we have the specialist category, and I'm going to go ahead and give you the name of this one off the bat. because I did my nin affinity test and I am a specialist. So this one is called Divine Desire. And basically, with this Hatsu, whatever I desire and can imagine within my head, I can make it into a reality. And there is no way for it to dissipate once it happens unless I choose to destroy it. And in order for this Hatsu to work, I have to be able to know what it is that I desire and genuinely can envision it within my head. Otherwise, it will just come out as a half product or a mediocre version of what I truly want, and it won't be useful. It's kind of like when you play games where you get a say like Dead Island, where you find a knife and it's like level 5 knife, but later on the knife breaks because it's not strong. But then you will find a machete that's like a level 15 and it's far more sturdy. So each time I desire something, it has a different level of requirements for me to make it happen. So if it's say something I want an event to reverse itself, I have to take extreme concentration on the event and remember it exactly as it happens, and then I can replay it in real life and reverse it. It's like time travel in real life. And I can also make things happen. It's basically like being a genie that can grant wishes, almost like Nanika. But uh it's way more than just grant wishing. It's more or less fulfilling desires without being dependent on others. Excuse me. But the strongest part of this Nen is that there is no limit to what you can create and or do, but you have to be extremely careful, because if you don't believe in what you create, then or desire, and it actually manifests, then you have little to no control over what happens in the outcome. So that is the biggest part of using this Nin. You have to make sure that you know what you want the outcome to be. Otherwise, it's just going to be a miscellaneous uh, projection that you have no control over. So, yeah, I think that works for a specialist, Hatsu. What do you guys think? But like I said, man, those are 6 Nin affinities in Hatsu that I have created. Leave a comment what you guys Nin affinities are, or what you would create as Hatsu, and what other things from Hunter x Hunter or any other anime that you guys would love for me to cover. Just leave a comment and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, man. Ensign Nazaki out. Thank you for watching, Ensign Nazaki family. I love you guys.